Hey guys, what's up? It's Pastor Josh here, and we're coming at you with another second helping. And all that means is this is just more of what I studied or found going into a message that I couldn't squeeze in on the weekend. So I just kind of want to give you a little bit more background and stuff that didn't make it onto the plate the first time. We've been talking about Nehemiah, and so this is the second week of a series where we're just looking at what Nehemiah is doing to build a wall and how God put that burden on him. And something I mentioned in the message this week was the time period between Nehemiah chapter 1 and Nehemiah chapter 2. In Nehemiah chapter 1, if you want to go read it, it says that it takes place in like late autumn of the month of Kislev. And then he prays and prays about this burden for the broken wall, and he finally talks to the king. And he gets to talk to the king in what is basically early spring, or the month of Nisan, is what the Bible says in Nehemiah chapter 2. So Nehemiah 1:1 says it's late fall. Nehemiah 2:1 says it's early spring. And so it gives us this 4-month window. And that 4-month window is really cool. If you want to hear more about it, go watch the message from this week and just what it is that God does in Nehemiah's heart during that time to prepare him to talk to the king. Here's something I didn't get to say that I think is wicked cool. There's another reason that the Bible goes to these great lengths to tell us the day that Nehemiah petitions King Artaxerxes for permission to go build back Jerusalem. It's not just that it was a 4-month window of him praying and fasting to get before the king to get his request answered, although that's wicked cool. It's also because it answers a prophecy that was given to Daniel. Daniel was taken captive during the Babylonian Empire, and you can read the stories of Daniel with him in the lion's den and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace. But one of the things that Daniel does is he also gets a prophecy. And you can read more of Daniel's prophecies, but in Daniel chapter 9, he says that the angel Gabriel comes and tells him something very specific. And in verse number 24 of Daniel chapter 9, the angel Gabriel says this: Daniel, a period of 70 sets of 7 has been decreed for your people and your holy city to finish their rebellion, talking about Jerusalem. Remember I said last week that Nehemiah was burdened for Jerusalem because Jerusalem is this key piece in the plan that God has to redeem mankind. So the angel says that it's going to take 70 sets of 7 for the rebellion and to put an end to their sin, to atone for their guilt, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to confirm the prophetic vision. Now watch this, and to anoint the most holy place. Once again, referencing the same thing. Now Daniel chapter 9 verse 25 says this: listen, this is Gabriel talking, listen, Daniel, and understand 7 sets of 7 plus 62 sets of 7 will pass from the time that the command is given to rebuild Jerusalem until a ruler, the anointed one, comes. Jerusalem will be rebuilt with streets and strong defenses despite the perilous times. So this is a really cool thing for Daniel to hear as a prophetic vision, that Jerusalem will be rebuilt. Now, this doesn't happen for quite a while. The time between Daniel getting this and Nehemiah actually meeting with King Artaxerxes is several years. But when Daniel gets this prophecy, he's told that 173,880 days was going to take place from the time that there's a decree given to rebuild Jerusalem till the time that an anointed one comes into Jerusalem. I need you to understand that. That's somewhere, I did the math, somewhere in the ballpark of 476 years and some change. Daniel is given a prophecy, a vision, that in 476 years from this upcoming event, and he's being promised that there was going to come a day when somebody would give a decree to rebuild Jerusalem. Well, we just read about it this week in Nehemiah chapter 2. King Artaxerxes gives Nehemiah the decree. You can go. You can head out of here. You can go do that. There's a famous astronomer, mathematician, is a British guy. His name's Sir Robert Anderson. He estimates that happens, that the decree to rebuild Jerusalem, that whole conversation between Nehemiah and Artaxerxes takes place on March 14th, somewhere around 445 BC. Why that's important is because Daniel's prophecy says that in the 7 sets of 70 plus 62 sets of 7, which ends up being 173,880 days, this thing was going to happen, this anointed one. Other versions say the Messiah. If you do the math from the time that Artaxerxes gives the decree to Nehemiah to go ahead and start rebuilding Jerusalem, and you do 173,880 days later, you come up with the date of April 6th in the year 32 AD. That's really cool when you think about, we just got a date for when the anointed one, the Messiah, enters Jerusalem. When Jesus enters Jerusalem, and you can read about that, that's Matthew 21, Mark 11, John chapter 12, Luke chapter 19. That's what we celebrate as Palm Sunday, Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem. A Jerusalem that has a temple, thanks to Ezra, has walls, thanks to Nehemiah. It exists because of what we're talking about right now in the Old Testament. Jesus enters into that city, and those dates, that gives us those two dates, which I think is really, really powerful, that the Bible 470 some years in advance lets us know what's going to happen. What I thought, if you don't geek out on history like that, and if you don't, that doesn't really interest you, what I hope that you'll take away from this second helping is God keeps his promises. He promised Daniel that eventually Jerusalem would be rebuilt, and under Nehemiah it gets rebuilt. And then he promises them that almost 5 centuries later, he would send a Messiah. And then he sends Jesus. Psalms 143 says this in verse 13, "The Lord is faithful to all of his promises, and he's loving towards all whom he has made." This is a cool promise from God. And there's a lot of other promises that you can hold to. If God will keep a 5 century, a nearly 500-year promise, then you can lean into the fact this week that he also says, "I promise I'll never leave you nor forsake you." He says, "Yea, though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'm with you." These are some promises that you can also hold to. Not just that the Messiah was coming, and if God kept that 500-year promise, he'll keep the same promises he's made to you and I, that he'll be a rock for us, he'll be there for us, and that he'll never abandon us. I hope that's encouraging to you. I hope it's a little bit of fun, and I hope you have a great week. God bless, guys. I'll catch you later.